First, open Tableau and load the CSV data as a text file. Once the data is loaded, you will see the data overview. We start exploring the data by creating a sheet. We will first inspect the data quality by creating a histogram. To do this, drag the salary measure onto the canvas. Then select the histogram option in the Show Me panel. However, you will find a huge outlier that we probably want to remove from our analysis. Go back to the data source and add a filter to include salaries up to 1 million, which will effectively remove the outlier. Now that the outlier has been removed, recompute the number of bins by editing the bin salary variable. The resulting histogram now shows clean, normally distributed salaries. We are going to name this first sheet histogram. Our next question is, do petitions increase over time? To answer this, drag the number of petition records and the year into the canvas. This will create a line chart that initially rises over time but eventually declines toward the end. You can also add additional dimensions like employer to see a further breakdown of the data. Here we only include the top 10 employers by the number of petitions. Next, we will answer which company files the most petitions. First, dragging the petition records and employer names will create a bar chart. We will swap the X and Y axis to display the labels horizontally. Then, we sort the bars to clearly see the ranking. We can also filter for the top 50 employers to focus on the companies that filed the most H-1B visa petitions. We can apply redundant color encoding to the number of petitions as well. And also add an average line to make trends in petition filings easier to interpret. Next, we will explore the following question. Which job title receives the most H-1B visa petitions? Again, we similarly drag the count measure and job title dimension. We sort the bars and swap the axes as before. Then we add an average line and apply redundant encoding. However, using too many bar charts can sometimes get a bit dull. So this time we will add some design variation. Let's duplicate the sheet first to build off of this bar chart. This time we will create a tree map. We will do so by selecting the tree map in the Show Me panel. In this tree map, each rectangle represents the number of petitions. We can also add employer names to create a nested hierarchy to the tree map, which increases its data density. The resulting chart shows employers subdivided into job titles. Next, we will answer which company offers the highest salary. For this chart, we need the employer names and the salary. We do the same thing as before, including swapping the axes, sorting the bars, and adding redundant encoding. We need to change the aggregation to median because sum adds up all salaries, which can be misleading. And median is more robust to outliers compared to mean. The rest of the process is the same as in the previous bar chart. Our next question will examine salary by job title. Again, we need to change the default summation measure to median. And the rest of the process remains the same. Next, we want to see the number of petitions by geographical locations. Since specifying a geographic map in the marks panel can be tricky, we drag the necessary variables and use the Show Me panel instead. Instead of a choropleth map, which distorts data by land size, we will use a symbol map that keeps data separate from land area. We apply redundant color encoding to make it more visually engaging. You can also change the color palette from cold to warm colors. Next, we will create a box plot showing salaries by state. When you drag the state and salary measure, you will only see a single column box plot. This happens because you need another grouping variable to compute aggregate measures. Once you add the city dimension and place state in the columns section, you'll see a series of box plots. In this updated chart, each circle represents a city's aggregated salary, while each column represents a state. Our final question will examine the relationship between salaries and petitions. First, drag two measures onto the canvas. At first, you'll see only a single circle, similar to a box plot, because a grouping variable is missing. Once you add the job title variable, you will see a proper scatter plot. You can also add a trend line, just like we did with the average line. Finally, you can customize the circle colors as needed. And that's the end of our analysis.